Okay, this week Doctor Who goes back to 1816 and finds a pretty good ghost story after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and in this episode of Doctor Who called The Haunting of Villa Deodati, this is based on some actual history. There was a villa there in Switzerland in which Lord Byron and Mary Shelley and others were gathered together during a storm. And during this storm, they were bored, being kind of housebound, and decided that they would have a contest to who could write the scariest story. And that led to Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein, and also one of the other participants writing the idea for Dracula. So an interesting night was had, even if we don't include the doctor and her friends, who we insert into this story, along with a visitor from elsewhere in time that has thrown the timeline off and caused all kinds of spooky things to happen. The lone Cyberman, which was talked about by Captain Jack and warned to the doctor not to let the lone Cyberman have what he needed. And we have found that what the Cyberman was looking for was the Cyberium. The Cyberium was something that was, as he described, both organic and mechanical, in which it needed to go with him in order to create a war on all humanity or something of that sort. We find out during the episode that it was sent back in time for the purpose of it being lost in the past so that it could not be used by the Cyberman. Now, this part human, part cyber individual who does not yet have his whatever kind of device they put in Cybermen to take away all their emotions, still has some. And so what we have kind of is a Frankencyber, and that kind of fits in with the story. Now, in this story, it's probably what gives Mary Shelley her idea for Frankenstein, or at least it makes her want to go ahead and write it down if she had something like that, because suddenly it seems kind of plausible. We found for the second time that psychic paper does not work for this doctor all the time. We find that people who either have no creativity or geniuses don't see anything on the paper. So that is a possibility of why the psychic paper didn't work, or it may have been some of the shielding that was put around the Cyberium that kept it from working. A minor thing, though. It had a couple of things that I always find in any kind of horror or ghost stories is that they say, everybody split up. There's something coming after us that we can't see, and we don't know how to fight, so let's everybody split up. And they did that in this episode as well. Certainly it wasn't the doctor that said that. She said, everybody wait here, I'm going after this alone. And then it was Graham's idea, I think, for everybody to split up. So anyway, there are a few good lines here as they are trying to find the ghost or get away from the ghost one way or the other. Ryan says, I think I feel a ghost right now. Yaz says, that's my elbow. I thought that was a good line. In the case of going down into where coal is stored and trying to find a way out, Graham is a little less than convincing that he knows what he's doing, and Lord Byron says, is it too late to consider another group? I liked that as well. Something that bothered me was that the doctor is doing this mind meld thing again. I don't know that I remember seeing that anywhere else in previous Who other than her, and this is the second time that she has done this kind of thing in this very series, I believe, and that concerns me a little bit. I did like the fact that Mary Shelley mentions that the Cyberman, when she first sees him, is somewhat of a modern Prometheus, which is interestingly what the original working title for Frankenstein was. So a nice little thing in there. Interesting also that she made kind of a reference to Bill Potts when she said, I'm not going to lose another one to the Cyberman, obviously talking about Bill. We have one thing there where everything is pretty much tied up well, except for the ghost that Graham sees, a maid and a little girl, and they can't be accounted for by the appearance of the Cyberman or by anything else that was going on. And in fact, they don't quite believe that Graham saw what he saw. And they leave the door open that that could have been real ghosts. Even though the doctor doesn't believe in them, she said, well, maybe that's what it was. We notice in this that the doctor is a little more gruff, shall we say, when she says this isn't a flat association between her and her companions, but rather a mountain in which I'm at the highest peak. It almost makes me think of Capaldi when he basically says, I'm not like you. I know things. I do things. I'm the doctor. And that was kind of an interesting channeling that this doctor did to her Capaldi predecessor. So I'd like to know what you think about this and what you think is coming up in the two-parter. It's going to be an exciting two-part ending for this series, and please leave anything you have to say about that in the comments. We'll be reading them. And of course, if you haven't subscribed or rung the bell to know when the next video is coming your way, please do so as soon as you can. We'll be having another Picard review in around Friday, and of course we'll start with the two-parters when they start with Doctor Who. So until then, don't go far.